What's going on, folks? Welcome to the Lunchtime Livestream. As always, I'm here with the greatest youth minister since Rob Harlamert, Donovan Gregory.
Since Rob Harlamert.
You like that?
Does that mean I'm better than Rob Harlamert? Or equal to Rob Harlamert?
You're different than Rob Harlamert.
I'll take equal.
Equal?
I'll take it.
We'll take it. We'll take it. But we are excited to see you guys today. This is a new setup. Normally, we're on separate screens, and we're not actually in the same place at the same time, but we decided to try something a little different today. So let us know how this looks. Let us know if the sound is okay. I have a feeling I talk a lot louder than this guy, so just if he needs to speak up, just say something, and we'll make sure that happens.
Yeah, you're welcome to yell at me. I'm fine with it.
Well, so far, Julio's on here. It says, "Good afternoon, brothers." April Price says, "I like that y'all are together." Oh, well, thanks, man.
It's like we like each other or something, man.
Well, I don't.
Yeah.
But no,
we act like it.
We'll act like we like each other all day. And then Julio says it looks amazing. So fantastic. We're real excited about what we're talking about today. But before we get into that too much, just a few quick little tidbits of information. We've got a night of worship coming up Tuesday, November 23rd. That is going to be an awesome night of worship. It's going to be mostly Catalyst people, but we got a couple friends from Elevate that are going to come join us. And I'm not going to say anything about who those people are, but let's just say I'm excited they're going to be helping us out for worship that night. It's going to be a good night.
It's going to be a great night.
It's going to be a good night. Our children's musical is going to be December 12th, and that's going to be at 10:30 a.m. on a Sunday, which means it's happening during a worship service. So the kids are taking over the worship service. They're going to be in charge, and we're excited to have the kids back on stage. We didn't get to do it last year. With everything going on with COVID, it just kind of threw everything off, and it's great to have the kids dressed up as animals and stuff back on the stage again. Are you excited about this?
I'm excited because neither me nor you nor Dave will be on stage, so we know it's going to be good.
Dave will get on stage.
Well, not for very long.
That's true. That's true. So we know it's going to be fantastic.
Yes.
It's going to be awesome. If you are interested in joining a community group, we want to invite you to do that. It's one of the best things we do here at Catalyst. And if you want to know any information about that, you can contact our senior minister, David Kibler, at dkibler@catalystchristian.net. Although he is getting ready to hand that off to another member of the church, and we'll be announcing that here shortly to let everybody know who the new person in charge of our community groups is. If you're doing nothing on a Tuesday morning from 7 to 9 a.m., we want to invite you to join us at Mono's Coffee at 2209 Lexington Road. We like to get together and just hang out, have coffee. Even Donovan comes all the way from Georgetown to do that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's delicious. I drink cold brew, so their cold brew coffee is delicious.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I hate to admit it, man.
Do you think their cold brew is better than their hot brew?
I'm not going to say that, but I like cold brew.
Yeah, what's wrong with admitting that?
I don't know. Like, something feels wrong about it, but I like it. I like cold brew coffee. And so I definitely enjoyed it a great deal. Got a quick comment on here. Oh, it's my wife. Their cold brew is so good.
It's like you set it up.
A little known fact that on those Tuesdays, my wife can't actually stop in and be part of the festivities, but I almost always try and hook her up with a cold brew, so when she drives by on her way to work, she can just walk in, grab it, and head out. So, gentlemen, if you want to be a good husband, provide your wife with her favorite cold beverage. That's all I'm going to say. And my wife is telling me, "Welcome to the cold side." It's her fault.
Welcome to the cold side.
Welcome to the cold side.
I love that.
And that's funny with what we're talking about today.
It is.
That's really funny with what we're talking about today. But anyway, so this past week we started a brand new series here at the church. Entitled Revelation, Living in the End Times. And today we're going to be talking about Dave's first message, and that was entitled To the Churches. And the main thing for this week was a call to stand firm. Donovan, when you were given these slides, I remember we both looked at each other first off and we were like, that's a lot of notes.
That's a lot of notes, yes.
That's a lot of notes.
The first thing I noticed was how many points and all that stuff that he was adding in there.
Yeah, there's just going to be a lot to it. So what did you think when you saw that theme of a call to stand firm?
Well, I felt like Dave is really good at not calling out specific people without calling out specific people, as well as calling out the whole church. Because he does talk about in the sermon a little bit about how it's to the churches, like it's to all of the churches, not just, you can't think that you're better than someone. So we all have to stand firm in our faith and our beliefs and in the fact that Jesus will return eventually, not essentially. But just the fact that I feel like a lot of us, especially during/after the pandemic, our faith started to wobble a little. And so we have to stand firm in it. We have to believe what we believe. We can't just wish-wash back and forth between what we say we believe.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100% with that, which is why it was so funny that my wife said, welcome to the cold side, because what we're going to talk about today is lukewarm Christianity. Yeah. And so either be hot or cold.
Yeah.
My wife wants me to be on the cold side, apparently. But Revelation 3:15 and 16 says, I know your deeds, that you're neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot or cold, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. So what we're going to talk about today are kind of what it means to be a lukewarm believer, and what we need to do to get out of that. So let's just talk for a second. I've already got a comment on here from my wife. She said, in coffee only. That's the only way she wants to be cold. So that's good to know.
Glad she specified.
Yeah, that's nice of her to do that. So let me ask you a question. When you think of a lukewarm Christian, what is that? What is a lukewarm Christian?
The Christian who comes to church every Sunday because they feel like they should. It's the right thing to do. They may go out of their way to do things because they're good things, which are good. You should do things that benefit society and help, but they don't actively go out of their way to try and grow the kingdom. They might serve every once in a while. They come to church most Sundays unless something comes up. Whatever it may be, they're kind of stagnant in their faith. Yeah.
What about you guys? Leave in the comments. What do you consider to be a lukewarm Christian? I know for me, it comes down to actual holiness. Like, you can do all the things of Christianity and be completely lukewarm. You can show up to church every Sunday. You can be on a worship team. You can serve and teach. You can do all these things, but if there's no form of personal holiness within you, there's pretty much nothing there. Yeah. And I think that a lot of times we equate works, even though we all believe that works are not what Christianity is based on. We believe that our works are what make us Christian. Now, I will say works happen out of our faith. Works happen due to our faith, but works aren't the thing that make us faithful.
Yeah.
It's
like the reverse. Like when we're faithful, the works kind of flow out of us.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Just exactly like that. And so you can be somebody who genuinely is involved and does all the right things, but there's nothing here, And I think the lukewarm Christian is somebody who, even though they're doing all the right things, they're just doing things.
Yeah.
Now, there's also the lukewarm Christian who shows up once a month.
Yeah.
Who doesn't volunteer really anywhere, but claims to be a believer, claims to be a member of a church, and so I think it speaks to that as well. Yeah. I think there are levels of lukewarmness, but
there's like a spectrum, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on with that.
That's when you said there's, so there's the people who serve all the time, but their lives aren't holy. And then there's the people who, show up once a week or once a month, not once a week. And then there's probably the people in the middle who they might show up every week and go to community group, but they don't do all the works that we said, kind of thing. So you can kind of fit in anywhere in there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. So let's talk a little bit about what Dave was talking about on Sunday. We'll get more specific into what he was saying. He said one of the things that if you're going to be lukewarm, that needs to happen to move from lukewarm to alive. And I think that's the big thing here, is moving from being a lukewarm Christian into being a genuine believer and having a relationship with Christ. I always equate the relationship with Christ to the relationship with a spouse. So if I was to tell my wife, we're married, but there's this girl, she's really cute. I'm going to go hang out with her for a little while. I'm going to go we're going to go see a movie or something, maybe get some dinner. She really likes it when we hold hands.
Your wife probably wouldn't be your wife.
Not for very long.
Yeah.
And you don't even, and it doesn't even have to be like sexual. It doesn't have to be overly physical, but just the fact that I would go in public with another woman, holding her hand, and just ogling over her because of how beautiful she is. You're cheating on your wife. The moment the eyes drift and you start viewing another woman like you view your wife, suddenly that's, at least the way I see it, that's cheating. It may not be physical cheating, but it's definitely emotional cheating. And I think in Christianity, we do a lot of emotional cheating.
Yeah.
I think we get to a point where we love God. I think we genuinely love him. But gosh, this thing over here is a lot of fun. I want to do that too. But we know that that's the opposite of God, what God wants for us. But it's like, but I really enjoy it. And a lot of times we use grace as an excuse for that and allow ourselves to get there. And so I want to talk a little bit about what Dave talked about. And the very first thing he mentioned was moving from lukewarm leadership to living leadership. And he uses the scripture from 1 Corinthians 11:1, follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. How much confidence do you need? Because this was Paul who said this. Okay, this was Paul. How much confidence do you need to have in your faith to be able to say that?
I mean, 100% confidence. Paul was one of those people who's like, if I die today, then I go to heaven. If I don't die, then I get to, grow the kingdom even more, kind of confidence in his faith. So you probably have to be the most confident. Like, your faith has to be the thing you're most confident in no matter what.
Yeah.
If you're that confident.
Are you that confident?
I think so.
Are you?
I would hope so.
I know. We asked this. We had our community group last night, and we talked about this. And you want to get a room silent real quick?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. Like, if you want to make a room silent, bring up this verse, and then look around the room and say, "Can you say this?"
Yeah.
Do you think that people should model their lives after yours? What do you think is the hesitancy in saying that for people?
Probably they think they're confident in faith, but they don't want to step out and then someone calls them out and they're like, actually, no, you're not. Or they genuinely just aren't confident in their faith. They know that they slip up more than they should. They know that they don't have as holy centered lives that they should. Like, they know they're not doing the right things. So they're not confident in their faith.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a mix of anxiety of just being wrong and being the person who's wrong, and just genuinely not knowing that you're not like that person. Yeah.
Daryl Jordan, his group meets tonight, and he said, I'm going to have to ask that question tonight then.
That'd be fun.
Oh, Daryl, wait till you see the faces you get from that one, buddy. Julio just said, having lunch with Jess, I'm not sure if most or any will consider grace before doing the wrong thing. Interesting.
When I was in high school, one of the kids I played soccer with told me this joke, and I've heard it through college and stuff. They looked at me and said, why did Jesus die if I'm not allowed to sin? Joking or not joking. I mean, some people genuinely think that. I don't think he thought that. I think he was just being stupid to be a high schooler, but I'm sure there's people out there that think that. They're like, I can sin because Jesus died for my sins. Because if I don't sin, then why did Jesus die? Kind of thing. Yeah. And that's funny because this week, Dave is actually going to be talking on Sunday about unrepentant sin, which that's exactly what that is. Yep. It's the idea of God. Yeah, God can forgive any sin, but God wants to see a repentant heart and wants to see someone who actually realizes that their sin was wrong. Yep. If you're somebody who thinks, well, I can do this, Jesus died for it, well, you missed the point. Yeah. You pretty much missed the point, because the point of Jesus' death was also to show us we have to die to our sins and be resurrected new as well. Julio says that we want to show our kids a role model for Christ. Absolutely. We definitely want to be a role model for our kids. So I remember asking the question last night, and then it just snowballed. We ended up not even really paying a whole lot of attention to the questions at that point, which I think Dave likes that. When you can get a conversation going and it just continues and snowballs. And so we started talking more about what does it mean to really be a believer that people can follow. And what we talked about was the fact that as believers today, we have it easy in America. It's so easy in America.
And because it's so easy, it's harder to be non-lukewarm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's hard to be warm as opposed to lukewarm, because it's so easy to just do whatever we want, and we're accepted for it. You know, even in a lot of churches, you see people who they just accept everything. It's okay. Grace covers over a multitude of sins. Not God called us to live better. God called us to be holy. There's not a lot of that in some churches. April Price says, "Go and sin no more." Yeah, that was what every time Jesus performed a miracle, that's what he said.
Yep.
Go and sin no more. But our thing was, you look at Paul, and the reason this came up is because a buddy of mine was in ministry for a while, and I was talking with Rob Harlemer and Jenny Ross, and we were talking about this friend of ours who was in ministry, and he kept getting beat up at churches. Just kept getting beat up, and his wife basically said, "No more. You're out. You're not working in churches anymore." And I've had several friends that's happened with, where they just kind of got beat up in different churches, and their wife said, "We're not doing this anymore." And I brought up Paul, and I said, "Well, Paul, he goes to his wife. So what happened today?" He goes, "I got stoned again." Weren't you just shipwrecked last week? Yeah. So that was the second time you've been stoned this week.
Yeah.
Why are you still doing this? And there are some people that believe that Paul actually had a wife and was married. There are others that don't believe he was. There's nothing really concrete in the Bible about it, but there's some historians that believe that he was married. I can't imagine what his wife thought.
Oh yeah.
About his ministry. Like, I know in starting Catalyst, there was a lot of sacrifice that had to be made, and there was a lot of stuff we had to give up. One of those being money. There just was no money when we started Catalyst, and that was hard. We were considered the redheaded stepchildren of Central Kentucky as far as churches go, and that was hard. But our lives weren't threatened.
Yeah.
We weren't stoned. We weren't shipwrecked. We weren't, threatened constantly. And so even though that was hard, that's not as difficult. And so for Paul, I think sometimes in persecution, it's easier to be a Christian.
Yeah.
Because it's a line in the sand.
Yeah. And you don't have as much to lose necessarily. Like, what was going to happen if you got stoned? He was just going to get stoned again or put in prison. Like, he didn't lose much. Unlike us, if like you not ran out of money, but you didn't have a lot of money, and that's a big sacrifice. If you have a wife and kids, or a wife of any kind, or a family of any kind, I mean, you want to be able to provide for your family. And if there's a chance that you can't provide for your family, you probably won't pursue that career or that job or that church or whatever it is, just because we're so used to having to provide, and we have these luxuries that we have, like air conditioning and a nice soft bed and food. And I mean, food's important, but the unhealthy food, like honey buns and Pop-Tarts and Dr. Peppers and that stuff.
Well, let's talk a little bit about leadership, because we're that's kind of what this one is: lukewarm leadership to living leadership. Who's called to be leaders in the church?
Everybody? Question mark?
I think we're all called to disciple, right?
Yeah.
And so we're all called to lead somebody. And for a lot of people, for parents out there, it's your kids. We should all be discipling our kids. We also need to be talking to people who we work with. We're always in contact with people. I think one of the hard things working in the church, a lot of times, especially like if you're not in a ministry like a youth ministry or a senior ministry, a lot of times being able to work with non-Christian people a lot of times doesn't happen. I know when I first started doing worship ministry, I just wasn't around non-Christian people. And now I do a podcast for backpacking, and we had a guy on who was gay on our show the other night. Afterwards, we probably had the most civil conversation I've ever had with a very far left-leaning homosexual man in my life. We were able to have a conversation, talk honestly and openly without going crazy. And I remember thinking to myself, I wouldn't have these opportunities if I wasn't intentionally doing something outside of my church to make these conversations possible. And I wonder how many of us get so involved in church that we find ourselves pulling so far away from the world that we can't do the thing that we're called to do. And so we become lukewarm because we're not put in a position where we can actually practice our faith.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll throw that out there.
Dave said something a few weeks ago. He's like, we have to be in the world, but not of the world, or something
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. The next section he talked about was lukewarm materialism to living sacrificially. And this comes from Revelation 3:17. You say, I am rich and I have acquired wealth and do not need a thing, but you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. A few years back, Adam Tipton and I were living in Wisconsin. Like he was, him and Jennifer and the kids, they were living in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I was the youth minister at their church, and they were just good friends of mine there in the church. Adam was one of my sponsors. Well, Adam on weekends did sound for concerts at this place called the Brat Stop. I'm not kidding you. There's nothing more Wisconsin than a place called the Brat Stop.
They have good brats.
Oh, the brats are so good.
I mean,
yeah,
you can't call yourself the brat.
Yeah, you can't call yourself the Brat Stop if the brats are no good. Yeah. So, but Adam did sound every weekend there, and he got this new soundboard, and he had bought it from this other guy. Actually, no, he got a new drum set, is what it was, and he bought the drum set from this other sound guy that he knew, and he was always trying to share Christ with this guy, always trying to share Christ with him. And then one day he became very open with Adam, and I hope I'm not messing this up. So, Adam, if you're watching or you're listening later, you can let me know if I say this wrong. But Adam said, you just really need Christ in your life. And his comment to Adam was, I'm a millionaire. Why do I need Christ? And I think there's so many people that we get caught up in our possessions and our wealth that we think we don't have a need for Christ. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my first thought was that I saw his notes and he called out people who live on coffee. And I felt very offended because I'm one of those people. But besides that, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that live that way. They're like, it goes back to what he said kind of at the beginning of his sermon, the fact that if we're scared of Jesus's return, then we're more into the culture of the world than we should be. So these people who are terrified or don't even think they need Jesus or God because they have all these possessions, they miss the point of having Jesus in their life. They have succumbed to the fact that they're untouchable, essentially. And they even think they're untouchable from death until they die. Yeah. Kind of thing.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. You know, he made the question during the sermon. He said, you know, this past week, we ended up giving over $5,000 to help a missionary whose house was burned down. They asked for what, $2,500?
I think, yeah, it's 25.
And we more than doubled that. It was like $5,250. I can't remember the exact number, but it was over $5,000. And he said, so for how many of you guys was that actually sacrificial? Did that hurt?
Yeah.
And he just Dave, in complete honesty, looked at everybody and said, I can't say that it really hurt me all that much.
You might not have gone to eat out. You might have had to eat in one day or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it really brought a really clear picture of what a lot of us aren't. You know, I'm not going to point fingers at people or say anything, but let's say you get a raise. Do we look at that? Let's say you get a $10 an hour raise. Is that really a $10 an hour raise, or is that a $9 an hour raise?
Yeah.
You know, do we look at it that way? Are we immediately going, oh, look how much more I can give to the church. Look at how much more I can give to God to do his work. Rhea and I, when we first got married, we committed that we would never just tithe. We would always do more than tithe. And that's not including like supporting our friend Laura in Honduras. That's not, we support one of the kids in India. That doesn't include that. That's just our tithe. And we've always said we want to do more than tithe. And so we've done that. And since we've been married, I guess 7 years now. Wow, 7 years. That's crazy. But since we've been married the last 7 years, every year, anytime there's been any kind of a raise for either one of us, our tithe has gone up. And this year, Rhea got a huge raise. And I remember going to Dave and telling him how excited I was that we got to raise our tithe. And I'm not saying that to say, look at me, I'm so great at giving, and
You're amazing,
I'm the
John.
tithing king. That's not it. It's just, it's taken years for me to get to a point where I'm excited about that, where I actually get to give more. And Rhea and I have talked, we have to buy a new house in the next year. Our kids are getting too big for the little 1,200 square foot, no backyard house that we have. We just need a place where our kids can actually move and play. Yeah. And so next year we're wanting to buy a new house. And, but we want to make sure we don't go crazy with it, because we still want to be able to give like we have. When we found out about the minister, I had a sum in my head of what I wanted to give, and I called Rhea and she didn't blink, and so giving has got to be such a huge part of who we are. And it can't happen if we're concerned with, well, I'm going to buy a new house. It's going to be a 4,000 square foot, 5-bedroom, 4-bath house that for 3 people, what is the point of that? Or I'm going to make sure I get a brand new car that has all the leather, all the stuff, but I'm not going to give to my church. There's, you want to see a good sign of lukewarm, see someone who claims to love Christ but doesn't give. Because that means their stuff and their money, that's off limits to God. And that is a hard place to be in. I would say for college students, that's really hard. Would you agree with me on that? Because, I mean, that's where you are right now.
I mean, yeah, it was hard for me to, it wasn't hard for me to necessarily give it, but it was hard for me to realize that I would be fine giving, because when you're in college, I don't work that many hours. I don't work that many days. I want to eat in the cafeteria, but the cafeteria is disgusting. So I go out and eat McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever more than I should. And I spend all my money there. And then it gets to Sunday and I'm like, oh, I don't have enough money to tithe this paycheck or this pay period or whatever. But I will say, once I started to tithe, I got a raise from the job I was working. Like within the month of me sitting down and budgeting and deciding, like, I'm going to do it online so I don't have to think about it, and it can come out every month at the same day right after I get paid. And then I think it was 3.5 weeks later, my boss came to me and was like, hey, we need to fill a position. Do you want a promotion? I was like, heck yeah. Duh. So, I mean, granted, I started to have to work a little harder, but it just all correlated too well to not be the fact that I started tithing, so I was given more. And then it just kind of was natural from there. Yeah. Essentially, I set it up to where it didn't hurt. It didn't seem like it hurt me to give. Like, it came out immediately. I would budget for it immediately. Like, when I got paid, I would get paid every 2 weeks and then make about $600 a week. I didn't get paid $600. I get paid like $585 or something like that, or whatever mathed out to. It's hard to grasp the idea, but once you sit down and actually think about it as a 20-year-old, it's a lot easier than than you think.
Well, I think Dave has a great way of looking at it when he mentions God gets the first 10%. The problem for a lot of people is we budget out all of our money, and then whatever's left over goes to God. And it's really easy to say, okay, we got our paycheck. This 10% is not ours. It's just not our money. Like, that's kind of how Rhea and I have had to think is, we give online. And so I think online paychecks and online everything has really skewed people's giving a little bit, because you're not actually holding money in your hands. And so giving has become strange for people, because a lot of people don't carry cash anymore. So people come in to give in the offering like, oh no,
I don't have any money.
I don't have any money.
Well, I have money, just not
right. But
they
pass the offering plate, and there's this odd feeling of I don't have anything, and I'm just going to pass it to the next person.
And then,
or I have like $2 in my pocket. That'll work. I'll throw my $2 down. Now forget the fact that that's like 0.03% or whatever of what you make. That's not really 10%. And so actually, if it's 0.03% of what you make, I really hope you tithe. Because Anyways, so back to what we're talking about.
I'm bad at math, so I don't even know what that.
I just know that's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk about that. So, I think the online presence of money now, money's not tangible anymore.
No.
Money's just a number. It really is. If you think about it, I never get a paycheck. I don't ever take the check to the bank and cash it. I don't deposit it that way. I rarely actually hold money in my hands.
I only hold money if it's given to me as a gift.
Yeah. And I would say that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I would say that that's one of the reasons why giving is so awkward for some people, because it's like we can't get our heads wrapped around that money is actually a thing. And it's just a number on a computer for a lot of people these days, especially people that are Gen Z. They've never seen money any other way. And I know you being a youth minister and kind of the fringe of millennial Gen Z.
Yeah. Generation screwed up.
We call you the Zillennials.
Yeah. Like that.
But you guys, you're kind of in that place where it's like never really had money. The fact that, I mean, even US money nowadays doesn't have the gold standard anymore. So it's just like,
it's just money. It's
this
just
is
a number.
This is our number this week. This is what we got. You got this, New York Stock Exchange deciding how much things are worth. And it's just, money is such a fluid thing now. And getting that mindset of the first of my money goes to God.
Yeah.
If we learn that we budget on 90% of what we make and not 100% of what we make, it's amazing how much easier life can be and still being able to give to your church. And that's just the beginning, though.
Yeah.
Like that's the beginning. Yes. That's not sacrificial. Here's the beginning.
Obedience.
Yeah, that's obedience. Exactly. That's obedience, but that's not going above and beyond and being sacrificial like what Dave was talking about.
Yeah.
So let's move from lukewarm faith to living faith. And I think this is the one that could be really hard for people too. And I'm just going to read from Revelation 3:8-10. I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. I will make those of you who are in the synagogue of Satan, who claim to be Jews, though they are not, but are liars, I will make them come and fall down at your feet and acknowledge that I have loved you. And since you have kept my command to endure patiently, I will also keep you from the hour of trial that is going to come on the whole world to test the inhabitants of the earth. That's kind of God's view of someone who's actually faithful, is you are going to be celebrated. You're going to be celebrated. And I think Dave, towards the end of his message, said, talked about where it says you're going to sit on the throne of God. And he's like, can you think about that for a second?
No.
I mean, do we realize what being faithful really ends up being for us in the end?
I think a lot of people are scared.
Okay.
Think about that.
Yeah.
I know when I was in high school and being a young college kid, because I didn't necessarily think about heaven as the reward, even though I knew it was the reward. Like it was the place I go when I die. And so just like thinking about it, because I have no idea what it looks like. I have no idea what's going to be like up there. It would frighten me, the fear of the unknown. I feel like a lot of lukewarm Christians have the fear of the unknown.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not something we can comprehend well.
Yeah.
Because I've told people multiple times, the idea of eternity totally messes with me.
Yeah, just being able to, because we learn about history, and I'm like, these people are now like, watching over us here, and they've been a part of eternity for 300 years now, and I just couldn't, 22 years of my life, I couldn't process, they're not watching over us.
Well, I think we live in a temporal world where for us, something starts and something ends, and to consider that there is no end. Like, we had a start, but we're not going to have an end, and it's going to be in one of two places.
Well, until the end.
Well, there won't be an end, though.
That's true.
It's going to continue. Eternity. And so whether that's
still breaks my brain.
Whether that's in heaven or it's not, Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's where we have struggled. Like I struggle with that concept, not because I don't like it or don't want it, but because isn't it supposed to end at some point?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is there supposed to be an end?
Yeah.
But there's not. And a lot of times with heaven, Ringo Wood just threw a heart up here. What's up, Ringo? You doing all right, buddy? One of the things that we talked about in our group was when we think of heaven, what do we typically think of? Streets of gold.
Yeah.
Getting a mansion.
All these essentially humanly desires that we want now.
Yeah.
There was one time one of the kids before I was a youth minister asked, "Do you think I can have an unlimited Justin Bieber concert while I'm in heaven?" And I'm like, I don't honestly know how to answer that.
Mm-hmm.
And so even when we're young, that's what we think about.
Yeah. Like I think Travis Salee is in our group.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, name with one sentence. It's part of the questions for community group this week. Name in one sentence what you think heaven will be. And his answer was, everything as God intended it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, yeah, that's it.
What a Bible answer.
I know, what a jerk. But no, but he nailed it because it's that idea of, we use the word shalom. And we think shalom just means peace. But it's not really peace. It's everything as it should be. Mm-hmm. In other words, heaven will be what God intended the earth to be before sin entered in. And so there will be no sin. There will be no hate. There will be no anger. There will be no sorrow. It will be pure bliss.
Mm-hmm. So there could be streets of gold and mansions.
And there probably will be because the Bible talks about those things, but we won't care.
Yes.
Like that,
we think about it how we think about it down here.
We'll be so caught up in the awe of God that this stuff is just kind of like, yeah, we live here. This is cool.
Oh, it's cool. It's cool.
There's God,
yeah,
the creator of the universe, and He said, "I can come up and sit on the throne today." Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like
it's your turn tomorrow. I got today.
I got tomorrow. You got today. It's gonna be awesome. And nobody's angry about somebody else getting a turn.
Yeah.
But no, it's this. But it's just this concept that, like, when our faith is made complete, how awesome is that going to be? And I kind of mentioned to our group last night, I think one of the big issues that we have as Christians is we have a temporal mindset. Mm-hmm. It's the reason we can't follow through on diets. It's the reason we can't follow through on our New Year's resolutions. It's the reason people struggle in relationships because they can't think end game. All they can think is right now, I'm not happy. Mm-hmm. I'm not happy. And since I'm not happy, I'm getting out. Can you imagine how many times Paul was not happy when he was being stoned or shipwrecked or threatened? How
many books did he write?
Quite a few.
At least that many.
At least that many, yeah. So, I mean, the Kishbaws, they're a newer couple to our church, but Andrea Kishbaugh just kind of talked a little bit about in our group how we're just too comfortable.
Yeah.
And in America, our goal is
to be comfy.
Is to be comfortable. Is that in Christianity? Is that in the Bible?
No.
Yeah, but it's the American way, and a lot of times in churches, we try and cater to that in some ways. Like, we want you to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. But is that really? And that's a hard one for all of us, myself included. Like, kind of want to be a little comfortable. Comfortable's nice.
Yeah.
The Kishbaws actually were missionaries in China, and she said, I knew I loved America, but I didn't realize how much I loved America until I left America. And because it's just so nice. It's so comfortable. It's so easy here. And I think in some ways that really does make it harder to be a completely on fire Christian. I think we can lean towards the lukewarm so much easier because comfort is the goal. And when anything takes away that comfort, then we struggle.
Yep.
So, anything you've got on that? Anything you'd like to add?
I mean, I just agree with you completely. The fact
that Dave, did you hear that? Yeah, I don't know if you're listening, but Donovan agreed with me completely. Just want to say that out loud.
Well, because, I mean, I don't want to be that person, but the whole, like, online church, the fact that like we did it because people get sick and we want them to still be able to have church once
Or they go on vacation.
or they go on vacation or there's a family emergency, whatever it is, but people have turned that, not just at Catalyst, everywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, everywhere you hear about it, they're like, yeah, our in-person attendance is down to like 60% of what it used to be. Or, but our online service is great. We have, 150 people that tune in, but I'd say about 15% of those people actually need the online service, and the other 85% of people are just there because it's comfortable, because they don't have to get ready. They don't have to do their hair, do their makeup, dress, and get out of PJs, get out of bed even. They can just flip to YouTube or Facebook or whatever it is on your phone, on Facebook, and there's church. And then you feel full. You get that full feeling. You're like,
or you check off a box.
Yeah, or you check off a box, which is something else that I feel like a lot of Americans do. We do a to-do list. I mean, I have a to-do list every week of things I have to get done, which isn't necessarily bad, but that dopamine of checking off a box of, oh, I went to church this week. Oh, I, took out the trash this week, or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's really funny. One of my absolute, I think one of the things that I think is funny is when I hear somebody say, "Well, I slept in today." You slept in past 10? Like past 10?
Yeah.
Like even if you got in at 2:00 in the morning, you can get 8 hours of sleep, get up at 10, get ready, and show up in time for church.
Yeah.
Like that's not unreasonable.
Yeah.
Yet, no, I slept in. I'm tired.
I'm tired too, man.
You know what? If you can't sacrifice just showing up once a week to a 10:30 service, I think you're pretty lukewarm.
Like, you don't even have to talk to people. I mean, we would love you to, because that's definitely part of Christianity, but you can just...
Well, shoot straight with me. When we were doing the online services and the worship was on, were you actually singing with the TV?
No, because that's awkward.
Right. I'm a worship guy. I lead worship every Sunday.
Yeah.
I sat like this and just kind of would do this. I tried to sing along.
Yeah. I would mouth the words maybe.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sitting in my living room with my parents. I don't really want to try and sing.
Yeah.
Because it's not loud. They can hear me, and I'm not the greatest singer.
Right.
But
right.
I mean, even you are good at singing.
I hope so.
Well, you're good enough that you don't scare people away.
I don't scare people away when I sing, so that's a win.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's something different being in the presence of other believers, and I like this. Online is being a spectator, and in services participating. And I'm not saying this for everybody. I don't like lumping because there's never 100% on any of these kinds of things. For some people, they are online and they are worshiping. Like, I have a feeling Elsie Kibler probably sings with every single song when she's, you know what I mean? Like,
but how many of us are Elsie Kibler?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Not everybody can be lumped in.
Yeah.
But I would say that Julio's not wrong
Yeah.
here. That, there's a difference between being a spectator and participating. And there's a huge issue with that. It's really hard to do that. And there are situations where, maybe it's a work thing or it's a physical thing. Maybe you or somebody who just literally can't.
Yeah.
You're shut in, that, which happens sometimes. It could be, we've got guys who are former military, and there are guys who deal with PTSD, and being in a large crowd of people can be really, really hard for them. Yeah. And so for those people, that could be difficult.
I mean, my brother was an alcoholic, and he gets anxiety from being in groups bigger than like 10.
Right.
And
right.
I mean, those things happen, but it's just a part of life. But again, we don't want to lump the whole.
Yeah, this isn't. What we're talking about are people that can be here that just choose not to be. And the only reason is, I just want to stay at home.
Yeah, they want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
It's not,
Here's this, Reggie Walls, he says, "Hello, church. First, let me say, praise God. I'm very much in need of a miracle prayer this morning. It's been a real struggle for me and my 2 daughters. We reside in a hotel due to me losing my job. And we've been living in a hotel for 5 months and 3 days today. I knew God would eventually send a blessing. I have a chance for me and my daughters to go in a 2-bedroom house, which is awesome. This is very big to me and my family. We really need God to step in immediately." Oh, I have, and I'm not sure what the rest of that's going to be, but We'll be praying for you, Reggie. Definitely going to be praying for you, man. Definitely. And it's interesting. Julio says, this is why I host in service. Mm-hmm. So we have online hosts for the online service. And basically it's so that for people who are out of town or people who maybe are in other states, they've never attended church and they've kind of during COVID maybe held on to Catalyst and was like, I kind of want this to be my church. Yeah. We have people that chat with those people during the service, and most of them will go to like my office or the basement and they will host the service there. Julio sits, we're actually in sanctuary right now. And if I'm looking out, this is all the seats. Julio sits right over there. And Julio does the hosting in the service, which is, I couldn't do that. My concentration level is not that good, no. but Julio pulls that off, and it's awesome to watch. It's absolutely awesome to watch. So kudos to you, Julio, for that. But yeah, I think so many. It's so easy to seek out comfort and not seek out Christ. And when our comfort gets shifted, the first thing we do is we drop church, or we drop our tithe, or we drop, we
don't stand firm.
Wow, how about that?
Oh my goodness.
How about that?
I'm so smart.
Look at you. This is why you're our youth minister. You're so much smarter than the rest of us.
I mean, I knew that already, but thank you.
But I guess all of this, if in all of this, Dave said this on Sunday, Revelation is not a book of condemnation. It's a book of encouragement. It's a book of move from this to this, and don't see this stuff as indictment. We don't need to see this as an indictment of you're evil, you're going to hell. This is more of an encouragement of giving you a mirror to look at and say, okay, here's where I am, but I need to be here. And I think that's a theme that's going to go through this entire series with Dave. And so I encourage you guys to not come in with this foreboding, negative feeling of I am a terrible human being, I am awful. Instead, look at it and go, okay, I see where I am, I see where I need to improve, and go from there. When we can do that as believers, it's amazing how much God will grow us. And it's amazing how much our faith will grow in the process of that. So do you have anything else before we sign off of here?
Dave even said it on Sunday. He's not doing this to make us feel bad. He's doing it because he loves us.
Exactly.
Jesus loves us so much that he wants to show us where to go, not just have us shoot blind and hope we make it kind of thing.
Exactly. Julio agrees with us on that and says amen. Just a few real quick things that we talked about at the beginning. If you weren't on, there's a night of worship Tuesday, November 23rd at 7 p.m. And the theme for that is kind of like it might get loud. That's all I'm going to say. It might get loud. It's going to be a fun night. It's going to be a fun night.
We haven't had a worship night in a while.
I know. It's been a minute since we've done a worship night. Yeah, we're real excited about this one. Christmas Eve, or the Christmas Children's Musical, is going to be happening Sunday, December 12th. That's going to happen during the Sunday morning service at 10:30. It's one of our favorite things we do as a church, and we love it, and we're excited to have it back. Also, if you're interested in getting into community groups, please contact David Kibble, our senior minister, at dkibble@catalystchristian.net, and he will connect you with the people you need to be connected with so that you can get plugged in to the ministry that I think we do the best at Catalyst, and that's getting people involved in community. And then one more thing, if you want to be in community with some people, have some great fellowship, come on out to Mono's Coffee every Tuesday at 7 a.m. We hang out there for a couple hours. We talk about everything from the Bible to family stuff to sports to our jobs, you name it. Everything comes up at some point. It's a great time, and we'd love to have you there. With that said, for myself, and for Donovan, Gregory Esquire, have a great week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.